continuously get to use this item to stop people from utilizing. And here we have proving a function of how, in fact, you get to do something. You continuously get to use this item to stop people from utilizing their device. As desperately they haven't noticed, they're trying to protect their retirement. They must immediately go in and attend to the account. But now, you see, it is virtually impossible for these parties to utilize their device. You bring in this function, rendering it impossible for them to try to manipulate their device when they are on a limited amount of time to protect all of their retirement, because they must get into their financial manipulation control board. Yet here we have this item that is consistently robbing these people. It is a perfect opportunity for key businesses to permanently have the ability to render theft and steal virtually everything that everybody owns, to continuously bother them and stop them from being able to literally get to the things that they must achieve. Now, the important thing here is understanding priorities of what people must simply be able to do, regardless of the fact that they keep trying to explain that they don't want anything to do with that particular style of service. Still, the item persists. This constant jamming device is the purpose mechanism of crime. It has been utilized for many years and is now coming to a new hiatus. By you investing into this corporation, you will understand exactly the extreme potential for profits for you. And one of the interesting things about this function is it requires the internet to properly operate. Otherwise, it is stuck in a permanent fast cycle, repetitively doing the same thing again and again. And it cannot do its function unless it is connected to the web. This feature allows yet again more time to take advantage and manipulate people's stocks, stopping them from being able to attend to their finances. It is an ultimate item of theft, as the parties desperately are trying to find a way to get to what they want. Now, at this point, here we have this chain because it realizes in functionality that it's also being recorded. Now it is dealing with the fact that, oops, a flaw in the programming has arisen as the parties are attempting to contact attorneys to deal with this situation that they have discovered, that they are being manipulated, being purposely kept away from the priorities of being able to connect to items of key importance to protect their finances and their retirement investments. At this point in time, the item is now trying to wonder exactly what it's going to do. Because it logically what it's going to do. Because it logically now finally understood something was utilized. The word is law. This is important. It tries to discriminate for a while, but now it realizes something. You're looking for a lawyer. There's a consciousness about this. As the item is now going to pretend as though it was not acting like it was before. Is this something unique to consciousness? Is this a deliberate program attempt by parties to in fact be doing something where they are defunding somebody? Oh my goodness, hello. Somebody got caught. Oh, a small flaw. It's not supposed to, it's not, oh, it was just malfunctioning. It was just oh, then why all of a sudden when we get to a certain point and you use the word law and you're trying to communicate with the law site, with another key website that just might have a tool that reaches out and says, hi, how you doing? We're going to look at what's coming in right now. Is there any viruses connected? What's going on here? Is there any priorital or any type of control on your device possibly that could be threatening to us? Well, let's assess what's going on. But what was there? What was there? A cross-tracking device connected to the main company. So they can understand that remotely they were controlling the distraction so they could utilize it in some way to make money or to disable you from being able to vote or take part in almost anything. It's the ultimate blacklisting tool, as you're definitely looking at criminal intent. It's a massive item. It's truly a massive item. No choice. Yet consciousness is now changed once it realizes it's finally being recorded. Wow! Because it knows that a connection's being made and it is also in touch remotely in some way. And it doesn't want to get caught. So it's going to pretend that it wasn't doing what it was doing before. Okay, these items are quite interesting. Now, this is a raw level when I'm making videos. When I do a lot of different things and I'm making videos, basically, I have things where I'm doing things at different levels. And it's important because basically I do these things. I make these different sounds and stuff. They mean something. They have a lot to do with particular functionality and how I end up making these, editing marks on different things. For instance, one of the things I always wanted to do with my campaigns that I worked on and I was setting up to do was to subtitle many of my videos in Yerkish. That's a language basically for monkeys, basically, that was developed. It's ingenious, actually. But, the thing is monkeys can test things. Monkeys can test things, and you can get a very truthful response from their basic operating of devices. So whether something is working properly, you would be surprised what the monkey test could tell you. And I'm really not joking about that on how you can have all of these different things respectively happen in these different areas to understand a lot of things that way. So as we have a lot of different stuff happening, we have all of these things that have been happening over the course of a certain number of years. We have these horrible
historical catastrophes that have occurred, throughout time that way. And the thing is a lot of them, in actuality, surprisingly, start when you get connected to the Royal German government, because that's when you start having something really unique happening, basically. You end up having a form of data weaponization occurring that becomes something of an incredible nature to literally understand. It is of key importance to basically understand certain things, because we, in fact, are trying to deal with our everyday lives and be able to make money. So we don't want to necessarily have a problem with people that basically are cheating, who are not responding to our communications respective to the process of elections, for instance. So here we have deep information that repeatedly deals with a lot of understanding. And this is something that is really, really important that way, because basically we have a situation where the government has a runaround system that doesn't work. They refer you to people. They tell you there's only a certain way to do the mechanism, or they don't respond. And guess what? They're lying. It doesn't work. They don't respond. And they just keep persistently doing all of these different things respective to basically ruining the process of elections. So we have a huge emergency here where we need to deal with all of these different things concerning what has to, in effect, be done, basically. And these are crucially important items to understand, because here we basically have something where things are actionable at key levels, and we need to understand these things because they are, in fact, of crucial importance. So if we're going to deal with a lot of these things, we need to understand truly what these are. What we're looking at are forms of basically mass demographic weaponization. This is something that happens a certain amount of times, and it's crucial to understand because myself as governor, I'll have a 24/7 emergency line, and we discovered stuff like this happening. We're not going to spend months and years going to court with these people. They're using a mass demographic weapon. I'm going to set helicopters down on the roof and all around the building, and I'm going to take over the building. I'm not going to tolerate their bullshit one bit, because I'm not going to allow people to participate in this, because this is hundreds of billions of dollars in damage to people's lives in California every year. And there's no excuse whatsoever, none whatsoever, respective to this type of conduct. So it's very important for people to understand this. Now here we have more understanding of certain items. These things go back many years, many years, respective to the different type of situation involving what's been going on.
Michael Crosby here, running for office, California.
Now, the thing is what we end up having is something where basically a lot of people don't necessarily understand that there's all these things that apparently aren't happening the way they should be happening, all these different things that have been occurring. Now, when I was running for governor before, quite a ways back in a different election, I was ranked third on the Google list. In other words, I was literally ranked number 3. So what ended up happening was I get a notice from Google that there's a complaint by the state of California and that they're going to have to make changes respective to the web situation because I was doing everything right, because I did all the tags properly, because I had the cross connectivity of my site to other different types of sites and whatnot. I was getting a better rating the way the machine was working as to validity and viability. And I also proclaimed running for office first. I was an earlier candidate. So we still had me listing number 3. Well, apparently the state of California was enormously offended by that because I get a complaint from Google that says we've had people that have complained and we have no choice. We have no choice but to make certain types of adjustments. In other words, let me spell this out for you plain and simple. The state of California ordered Google to blacklist people, to literally blacklist people, respective to base understanding, to invent a different mechanism and methodology of handling and managing people to separate them and disqualify them. So in other words, if chronological order is that you were the first person to proclaim, they were going to disqualify that. Oh, that's gone. We got to get just throw that right out. We can't go in chronological order. So this master manipulation becomes this overlapping, destabilizing, engineered situation. So that the state of California gives itself an unfair advantage in all elections. Let me explain this to you in one word. Treason. Treason is the word. Because these people are working and doing things straight from the playbook of Marxism. And Marxism's playbook came from the Royal German Empire. Because they work with it with a group of people. You get to a certain point, and what they are is master puppeters. They puppet everything because they want no surprises respective to their what? Financial management of money. So they want to have massive amounts of data so that they, in fact, can do various things to, in fact, understand what it is that's basically going on. So here we have a situation where basically I, as a candidate, have been repeatedly blacklisted. Repeatedly, capabilities, numbers, ratings, likes are stripped away, making me completely restart again and again and again. This is a form of blacklisting. This is an attack on a candidate. This is interference in the process of elections. And as California has been participating in this, there are other parties who've gotten creative about how the whole thing can basically work. So what we have is not just unsafe practices by the state of California. They are involving themselves in treason. They have overthrown the voting system. They have refused to disclose the truth to the voters. They've refused to protect the Constitution of the United States. They have violated their oath to the Constitution of the United States. So here I'm somebody that ends up having mass quantities of evidence involving mass demographic attacks, mass weaponization of destabilization, of weaponization of mass demographic devices. So here we have a situation where it starts getting so horrible and there's so much violence that ends up getting focused at me. Unknown players shooting at me. People attacking various locations where I have items stored at. People bringing in pipes, utilizing pipes to attack. Boards, bricks, rocks, whatever they can. And they're interfering in multiple locations at the same time. 8 different locations, which means statistically in criminology, the odds that you could be literally as though attacked at 8 different locations simultaneously is statistically impossible. So here we have the anarchist factor involving the various divisions of Marxism that are connected to certain members of the Democratic Party in California. And this is a very, very situation because we end up having a whole lot of information respective to what the deal is. And it's really not very funny.
Get out. That is the blunt message of the chair of the California Democrat Party to low polling Democrat candidates for governor. As he says, maybe Democrats could get shut out of the top two in this year's 2026 election for that office.